So tonight, we're gonna talk about evaluation, a self-evaluation of the board, and an evaluation of our superintendent.
Oh.
Because we have them for another year, so we need to evaluate, right?
Hope so.
A year or 18 months, which one? I thought it was 18 months. Well, I can't remember.
I haven't announced anything formally, but I hope at least it's
Well, what are you gonna announce it for?
24 months is a good
that.
number.
I don't know. That's
I'm with you there.
What did I do with my stuff?
Well, I think right in the front is the work session right there.
Right, but I have to do self-evaluation and all that, so
Oh,
I
here's-
passed it on.
Which one?
Passed it off. Okay, so the first one will be board self-evaluation. And this talks about why we do it and how we do it. And Rose, you had some suggestions also, did you not?
Tony handed out, just the minor revisions that we made at our November board meeting when I first presented this to you, so I just cleaned it up and he handed out. This is just a draft proposal. We're not obligated or committed to doing it, but I wanted to show you where it was, and I don't have any further edits.
Yeah, the other thing I'll add is in your board book, if you were looking there, there's an OSBA self-evaluation, and it's pretty long. And also, I believe the conversation before has been to the point of saying that that is really good for maybe school district boards.
It's in our.
Yes, it's in your, yeah, you have it there in your package. And the OSBA one, works well for maybe school districts that have, K-12 grades, but as far as ESDs, it didn't necessarily fit. So that's why Rose, I think, made the changes she made to this draft. That we want to get out. Also, I think we also, in your packet, it says that you need to be familiar with, chapter 334 of the ORSs. I'm gonna hand that out to you right now.
Can I say something? You're doing good on copies.
Yes.
A lot of papers, I can't do anything other than paper, sorry.
Okay,
I looked, I have to admit, the first time carefully at the proposed OSBA form. And I don't actually think it's true that it's really geared to K-12, but what it is much pickier about, did you have an opportunity for public comment at all your meetings? I mean, it's sort of got little bitty kinds of things. And I think that's the big difference between what Rose brought us and this one, is that Rose's is really focused on big things. And the other one is here, all the things that you could possibly think of, that you go check, 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 check. And I don't know which one, I mean, I think the things that Rose brought to us, clearly we ought to be doing, because those are the big ones. And then the question is, do we want all the other stuff? Because some of it's good reminder,
we could always just go through it in a
stand up
workshop.
stand up straight.
Yeah. Don't eat with your mouth.
Don't chew with your mouth
Yeah,
open.
yeah. Well, it's only good.
Don't look at me like
I like the no elbows on the table.
So there are two ways we could do it. We could go with Rose's suggestion, but also go through as a board, the OSBA one, and just talk about it and make sure we are doing all those things. So, what does the board want to do? Because this is February, guys, and we are really behind. That's my fault.
On the board self-evaluation?
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Are you keeping on your schedule?
Just to comment, credit to LBL, ESD, this is modeled after their draft. So not that this is their fault, but just that we took some of the items from theirs and then replaced it with the relevant items from us. That's where it came from. And then your feedback.
So what we would do is, we would do the self-evaluation this next month, and then we would have a meeting in March. and go through it.
March is next month.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
we would take this home and do it this month.
Oh, I
I'm
see.
sorry. Yeah, do it during February and then review it in March. Because
Yeah.
then it's April, May, and then school's out.
I would just say that it's not quite yet in questionnaire format, but it wouldn't be hard to.
No, we just have Julie do it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, did you do this?
Yeah, yeah. We have to-
This is
Okay.
Are we
the.
okay with this, guys?
Yeah, proposed
Okay,
one
we
from the-
can't make a
Do
motion
we,
and-
are we going to, do we need to write it up and present it, like?
We'll have to vote on it and-
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I meant for when we do our own, or is this?
Okay.
Julie will prepare this,
Okay.
won't you, Julie? Yeah.
Are you wanting this in like a online survey format? I can do that.
Okay, and you have this, do you?
I do.
Okay, okay, so we're
So
okay with this?
online format, okay.
Yeah.
I'm-
So online and, what do we call this?
Self-evaluation?
Yeah, but I mean, reference site. 25, okay.
So did Julie, could you say that again, please?
Julie is going to format it and then it's gonna be online.
Oh, okay, so it'll be all
Yeah,
tabulated
Mhm.
automatically.
yeah. And then we will have a work session in March and go through everything.
And so we're
Be
gonna.
gentle on your board chair.
No, I'm trying to, I'm just being a bear of very little brain right now. Sorry.
Okay.
Hey, we're all females, we're good. With all different personalities and perspectives, we're very diverse.
Are we supposed to be though? So the other one would be the superintendent evaluation. Do you have that, Tom?
So I don't know if we, let's see, let me look in the board book.
We were going to use the one from last time, correct? I think that's what you had talked
Yeah,
about.
so it is in there. It's a fillable form. I didn't print hard copies of that one. There's a, goes to ESD one.
So it's on in the board book.
Hold on, now I'm not seeing, I'm seeing one page.
Yeah, I mean, in the past, we've just done the post the ESD one and then
Yeah.
added your personal goals and we wrote a little thing about it and we talked about it and gave you some written in response.
And so, so that would be for the board. Do we want to send it out to directors, to other superintendents? Do we just, since this is February, did you just want to kind of keep it small and just?
Well, it seems to me the superintendents are the closest thing that we have to a true,
Public.
well, to the consumers. So clearly, and by the leadership, the thing that's in the leadership, I think you meant the internal leadership. I think we need to do something, we need to do that, we need to do something more to get the sense of the staff, other than, no offense, I don't mean this offensively, but the people the Tony's picked for leadership positions. You know, so, and I don't know whether we go to the union and say,
Okay, Tony, what did you want to?
So what I'm just noting that, what is in board book does show over the past, since 2018, kind of who beyond,
Right.
the board was involved. And so staff was involved in 2022.
and I don't know if we want to do all the staff, that's why I was saying
No.
some kind of, I don't think we want to do all the staff, partly because there's a bunch of people who come back and say, I have no clue, I never see the guy. But I was thinking we need to find some way to bring in staff other than your people who perceive rightly.
No, I think we have to remember, he only has one more year after
I
this.
know.
And so, I mean, if it was his first year or second year, I totally agree.
Okay.
But I mean, that's just my opinion. Both board decides on this, but I'm not sure how involved we want to be on this last evaluation phase. So what feedback do I have from others?
Well, we ain't giving them no raise, right?
Not asking for money.
Don't be so brutal. But then, when we start getting raises, we don't get evaluations.
What would you
No,
like,
I
Tony?
agree.
I mean, would
So,
you want that input, or what's gonna help you?
Yeah,
I do, you mentioned staff, and yeah, there are gonna be folks that don't know, although this isn't as tightly connected as I would like it to be, but it still might be an opportunity for people to know a little bit more, because I am sending out more regular communication again. So one of the things about goals was communication, regular communication. I said, I'm sending something out. Morgan, our HR director, is putting together the flash, and I'm contributing like the lead column to that with what I hope is pertinent information for the staff. So there could be some things we could get from staff, but I think it would depend on maybe what we ask them, what you want to hear on that. And if it's in relation maybe to some of the goals that are pertinent to what I'm trying to do, to see if that's resonated, as opposed to questions about, there might be things they wouldn't know about me personally, but just is that, touching on their work or helping them their work. The other part is, I hear what you're saying about kind of the leadership of the cabinet. We have done some changes in terms of cabinet a little bit. I mean, some of the directorships are new and are changing, and we're also trying to, I guess, take some input too about structure and organizational structure as we change. So it might not be a bad idea to include some information there that may help, and some of it may help me personally in like the near future of the job. Some of it may also help just hear what I would be thinking, and you guys as the leadership also thinking about the organization and where we go. The goal I've got is when I do leave, I want it to be moving in a direction that's really positive and really responsive to the work that we do. And so I think what we've been trying to do with our cabinet is really work on that and look at that and see what those changes might be. So it may not be a bad idea, even though they are the folks I work with directly, but it gives them an opportunity to.
Well, no, definitely,
To say
I think
something.
they should be.
And as I look, the superintendents, I have no problem with superintendents in the county. I do need to be connected with them, but I would just add the next key piece, maybe staff, and that would include the leadership of the cabinet and management. Or if we just want to do cabinet management, I just think somehow you need to incorporate ESD personnel in this. Help me.
yeah, no.
Help me and help figure out where we're supposed to.
So definitely the cabinet and definitely.
If I put a management team, I feel that move beyond just the.
Maybe you ought to tell us the definition of the cabinet versus the management team.
Good.
We'd like that.
The cabinet is the superintendent, the management team is his everyday surroundings.
There's
Right?
just two people in the cabinet.
No, cabinet would
Any
be
director.
Oh.
the director, so that would be,
Okay.
so the ones you
The
see,
heads of
that'll be here
Oh.
tonight.
I'm thinking
would
about
be
this.
considered our
Okay,
cabinet.
gotcha.
So the co-directors of school improvement, the director of special education, director of business services, assistant soups on, and the director of our chief information officer. Those are the key, and HR director, those are the key cabinet spots. And then management would be administrative, all of our
Is Olivia
administrators.
in that too?
Yeah, Libby's our business.
I just didn't hear you.
Yeah. All of our administrators, as well as some key office manager positions and some other key payroll positions, business positions are part of management. So it's a group of about 20, so 22.
I think that would give us a really broad idea, because that's quite a few people.
Do you want it sorted? Do you want the replies? You will get the replies sorted by superintendents versus
Right.
us. Do you want replies sorted among the cabinet and the management separately, or all just ESD employees? And for purposes of your using the information.
How have we done it in the past, Julie?
It's on the whole staff. Yeah, I don't know if it's,
I don't think you ever.
Jerry, we separated cabinet from the management staff in the past.
Yeah, I thought we did.
okay. Yeah, that might be helpful. because in both those areas, again, we've made changes there. We've tried to incorporate what I thought are some of their input on it, but it might be good to hear whether that's really, if they got other ideas too. Yeah, it's separate. Management's big enough. Wouldn't know. It's just capital and finance.
Well, probably are sent it to you.
Well, some of, yeah, we had a retreat last Friday, so yeah.
They might just say, I incorporate by reference what I said last time.
I told them last Tuesday. Okay.
So on this, I think we were gonna have to give her more time than a month, don't you?
So, I don't know, Julie, I don't think it's taken that long before to get a, survey out. I think it may be a week to get it kind of sent, and then I think we give people a couple weeks to get it back. And so I think I think we could have something by the next board meeting.
That would be
Tony?
great.
Tony, I think we can too. I think the more time we give folks to respond, the less
Yeah.
motivated they are to respond. So if we give them a shorter timeline, we'll get a better response.
Okay, yeah, I think that's what we can do. Get that out again this week, early next week, give them a week, and then get stuff in and have it tabulated ready for the next board. That's something.
A shorter timeline is a better response.
Yeah,
You're a procrastinator, you put it off. I'll get to that.
I mean, that's the way I pay my bills. Pay them now, then I won't forget.
And I want that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So we also will need a motion on that during our regular meeting, so whoever wants to do that.
So the motion will be to adopt the superintendent evaluation formula we've used in the past, and to adopt the board evaluation form that.
We'll probably have them separate. We'll have them two separate.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have two votes, one for the
Right,
board,
right,
one
right,
for,
right.
yeah, one for the superintendent.
Can I contribute?
Yes. thank you.
This is Julie, and I think that I listed them as discussion items as report out from the work session. So we want to be really clear when someone makes a motion that they make the motion and be really clear about what that is and keep them separate. And it'll be in the discussion section.
Yeah, there's already, yeah, Julie had already put in the agenda discussion item for talking about the work
Yeah.
session. Covered already in the agenda.
So do we have to amend the agenda to have votes on these?
You can take the action inside those discussions.
Yeah.
But as Julie, as long as it's just clear.
Did that give you enough time to complete your part of it?
My part of the,
Evaluation, your goals and things?
yeah, well, what I would do I've got goals that I think I gave you last January, February. And so I've got those, and then it would just, I could give a self-evaluation of where I am.
Right, yeah.
And then, yeah, it'd be fine, and then come up based upon what the evaluation is, come up with goals.
It's helpful to have that before I complete my evaluation, because
Yeah.
you know what you've done, and I don't necessarily know.
I just pulled them up on my screen here and I reviewed them, and so I can do that very quickly.
Yeah, and then we can, that's helpful.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. I think we did that really well.
That's good.
Yeah.
So we take a recess.
Yes.
Dinner should be coming.
So Julie, we're done with our work session, so we can cut us off now, and then we're gonna have dinner, and then we'll start at 6 o'clock.
Okay,
We'll see you then.
Yes, everybody's.
Remember, next week is Tony's birthday, so wish him a happy birthday, right?
Yeah.
Sue, you said it was 40, right?
What day?
It'll be
I felt
41
old.
tomorrow, 42 the next day.
I felt-
It's celebrating all week.
I felt old.
I love it.
Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order. Nice to see all you guys. Thank you for coming tonight. We're gonna twist your arm, or did you want to come?
Happy
Okay.
Volatile. They like to.
So a reminder that we haven't changed the public meeting requirements, that this is going to be recorded, and then it will be given to the published no more than 7 days after our meeting.
We posted our January, meeting on the website, as all of them will be posted now on the website.
How long do they have to stay up?
I'm not sure.
Probably forever.
Check.
Public participation? Are you sure you want?
Tech support.
Okay. Agenda review, I think we're okay as stated.
Yes.
And Linda is going to do the land acknowledgement, please, Linda.
I'm still trying to find it.
It's item number 7.
7.
7. It's about
Okay,
3 pages in,
4.
4 pages in. Thank you, Linda.
Okay. Lane ESD acknowledged that the lands we call Lane County, the lands that sustain our children, our future, and our collective well-being, are the traditional and sexual ancestral home of the Kalapuya, Louis, Malala, and other indigenous people who have lived in Lane County since time immemorial. Native children's families and communities bear witnesses to a legacy of displacement and forced relocation. As an educational institution, we are accountable for addressing the current and former silences, insurance, and genocide of Native people in Oregon and Turtle Island. We aim to join with Indigenous people, honoring their resilience, courage, and self-determination in a purposeful pursuit of justice. Today, Indigenous people, alive, diverse, and vibrant, live in and contribute to the culture of Lane County. We are all blessed by their presence. We commit to support our own Lane ESD staff and students learning about Indigenous people of Oregon, the history, culture, current concerns, and the role of educational institutions in the genocide of Native, Indigenous people and tribes, and in the possibility for repair and justice. As an ESD, we will support and encourage the implementation of tribal history, shared history curriculum with all our educational partners. The board also commits to the building relationship that would help us understand the lived experiences of our Native students, families, and communities, and how Lane ESD impacts our student in collaboration and with the superintendent. The board will review and update the spoken statement of accountability land acknowledgement annually during our annual organizational meeting program meeting.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Appreciate that. Under 8 is action items, so we have a consent agenda. You accept the consent agenda, do you hear a motion?
I so moved.
Second? Second, okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Accept the financial report as presented, do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second,
A second.
questions?
7%.
Making progress.
Any other? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. C, policy adoptions, do I hear a motion?
Yes, I'm just trying to make sure which one we're adopting.
So this is a little more of a complicated one.
Okay.
So I'll introduce it without the board discussing it. That
Okay.
might be the way to go. So at your last board meeting, the January meeting, you passed changes to policy AC, which was non-discrimination in civil rights. Since that time, in fact, I think the day after or 2 days after, there was a federal district court decision in Kentucky that changed the definitions that were used in the AC changes that you made. OSBA sent an email out right around that time stating that districts, for the time being, should keep their existing AC policy, that anything else would be on hold. Since you already took action at the January meeting, the recommendation is that you rescind the action that you took, and therefore you would be rolling the policy back to the way it was prior to the January meeting.
Now, which policy is that?
It's policy AC, it's called non-discrimination in civil rights.
Right.
And so I think what's in question are some definitions of sexual identity and some other things that are in there that were part of the Kentucky ruling. So it's policy AC, and it's more than that. And thank you for asking me, Linda, because it's also policy GBNAA, JFF, and JHFF, GBNAA. That
Can you repeat that, please?
well, one of those policies is suspected sexual conduct with students and reporting requirements for staff. The other is suspected sexual conduct with students and reporting requirements for students. So those are the three policies that the Kentucky ruling have changed. And so OSBA's recommendation is to what respect. You may recall Morgan had a pretty in-depth discussion and information about kind of how a lot of things that were in the policy were moving into administrative regulations. He did extensive work in looking at those administrative regulations and lining us up. For the time being, OSBA is recommending those to be on hold. So the action.
Because of Kentucky ruling, you said?
It's a federal, it was a federal one, and it takes, some of it does have jurisdiction. I don't know exactly how it connects, because I know in the federal, in the Ninth Circuit, I don't think Kentucky's.
They can have,
It can, look, somehow it did have influence.
they can have each one.
Okay, I can move then.
Okay, thanks.
So, yes, I'll move to rescind the policy updates, but not the entire policy.
Okay.
To revert back to the prior version, as presented in item 8C1.
Second,
I second it.
any further questions, Tony? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving along, guys.
No, we have another one to make.
I didn't find it out.
I move that we not adopt
Oh,
updates to GBNAA, JHFF, and JHFF, GBNAA.
I second. We can't update any of them.
okay, questions, answers, concerns? All those in favor say aye. Any opposes? Okay.
So just a point of information that on the website, if you go currently look there, we hadn't made the changes to policy AC. So as it sits in the website, it still is the policy that was there prior to your move in January. And this came out like the day or two after our board.
Okay. Give the recent policy updates for us, Tony?
Are we gonna get more action?
Those will come like, yeah, well, so I have some discussion on it later, but we got the AD, which is the.
Career and Technical Education Appreciation Month.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to read that, Tony?
I can do that.
Okay.
Whereas February 1st to the 28th, 2025 has been designated Career and Technical Education Month by the Association for Career and Technical Education. And whereas Career and Technical Education offers students the opportunity to gain the academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for true career readiness. Whereas students in career and technical education programs participate in authentic, meaningful experiences that improve the quality of their education and increase their engagement and achievement. And whereas career and technical education provides students with career exploration opportunities early in their educational experience, which enables them to make informed and beneficial decisions about their academic coursework and pursue established programs of study and career pathways. And whereas leaders from business and industry nationwide report increasing challenges related to addressing the skills gap and connecting qualified professionals with available careers in critical and growing CPE-related fields, including healthcare, energy, advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity, and information technology. And whereas career and technical education prepares students for these and other fulfilling careers by offering integrated programs of study that link secondary and post-secondary education and lead to the attainment of industry recognized credentials. And whereas career and technical education programs ensure that employers have access to a qualified and thriving workforce, ensuring America is a strong and competitive economy. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Directors of Lane ESD do hereby proclaim from February 1st to the 28th, 2025 as career technical education. And urge all students to become familiar with the services and benefits offered by the career and technical education program as a community and to support and participate in these programs to enhance their individual skills and products.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Leslie, you want to read Black History Month.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now you know that.
Do you want me to read? do you
Point
want
of
me to read
order.
What?
Point of order, we need a motion and a second on the,
Rose made the
Month.
motion.
I
Second.
seconded. Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you got it, Julie. Thank you.
Whereas in 1915, Dr. Carter Godwin Woodson, noted Black scholar and son of former slaves, founded the Association for the Study of African American Life and History and initiated Black History Week on February 12, 1926. And whereas in 1976, President Gerald Ford made Black History Month a national observance, and the second week of February coincides with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. And the event inspired schools and communities nationwide to organize local celebrations, establish history clubs, and host performances and lectures. And whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the many achievements and contributions made by Black Americans to Oregon and the United States economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development, and honor the memory of the millions of enslaved Africans who died during the transatlantic slave trade. And whereas while the observance of Black History Month calls for our community's attention to the continued need to battle racism and to build a society that lives up to its democratic ideals, and whereas all students need an opportunity to understand the common humanity underlying all people, to develop pride in their own cultural identity and heritage, and to respect the identity and heritage of others. And now, therefore, we, the members of the Board of Directors for the Lane Education Service District, hereby declare February 2025 to be Black History Month, and we strongly encourage our staff and community to observe, recognize, and celebrate the culture, heritage, and contributions of Black Americans to our country, our state, our cities, and our schools. By resolution of the Board of Directors this 4th day of February 2025.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve the resolution.
Okay, Rose, second.
I second it.
Second, Leslie. All those in favor say aye. Okay, yeah. So we only have one person running for the OAESD Officers Council elect. And we have Jeff Crapper is a person, and he has all of his credentials there. Do I hear a motion to vote him in?
I motion we approve Dr. Jeff Packer. He is the CTE for the state of Oregon, I think. That guy is very sharp.
Second.
He is.
Second?
Second?
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Point of information. So just to let you know that this is the chair side, the board side of OAESD government. And on the superintendent side, there's only one nominee, Annalisa Douglas, I think put out there. So balance big district is Willamette ESD and then Douglas. So
Okay.
we're both in that. Douglas is small. A lot of small districts. But we'll probably, I mean, I doubt that, I'm pretty sure Annalisa will get it.
Thank you, Tony. We're on item number 9, legislative update.
So I will start by stating that if you saw the board briefing, there were a couple of links in there to one short video and one long one. I don't know if you looked at either one of them, but the long one was where Amber Eden, the executive director of OAESD, and a few ESD superintendents, actually in the House Education Committee, got about a half hour to talk about what ESDs are, trying to educate our legislators about the different things we do. And so I think that was very well received at that time. And then the shorter one was actually a testimony on the regional inclusive services that a Eugene station, TV station, picked up on. And so our lobbyists caught that. I didn't see it. I got a text early in the morning and said, check the TV out, we're on. And so the regional inclusive services testimony in front of the Senate Education Committee was reported on by the local station. And I think they did a good job if you check that out in terms of explaining what regional inclusive services are. That title still doesn't cover it, but they did a good job calling out students who experience autism.
Just put us on the 5 o'clock.
Yeah, students who experience traumatic brain injury, students who are deaf, hardly very blind. They did a good job pointing that out and good visuals. That was, I think, a good point. And then a reminder that when we talk about the legislative platform of OA ESD, we're still advocating for those students who we serve in the RIS program to be adequately funded. And the amount we're talking about for RIS is $122 million. We're also looking to advocate for students in EIEC cares. We subcontract with the U of O on that, and we're looking for a total of $432.8 million on that. And then when we get to a couple other special ed related legislation items, and Nora, you brought this up earlier, that one of the special ed items is that the cap in the state school fund right now is at 11%. We're lobbying to try to get that raised above 11%. And COSA is advocating 15%. And then one other piece that I think is crucial for the work we do is to increase the amount of reimbursement the school districts gets for students who are considered high-cost disability students. Most of the students we serve fall in that category. And so the tension right now is as the cost for us to serve those students is rising, and districts aren't getting reimbursed for it, yet we're still charging. So it'd be nice if the legislature would provide a bump in that reimbursement to match. It's been, I don't know, 7-8 years or longer since we received that increase. I remember there was an increase back then and it hasn't been much since.
The students that are, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
specifically students that are special ed students or
High-cost
reimbursement.
disability?
Oh, yeah, that'd be for special education.
High cost disability.
Yeah,
It's
like,
like 2 or 3 staff all the time. I mean, there's a.
Right.
You used to say $100,000, but probably more for an annual cost.
Yeah, I'm looking at
12, 15.
Molly and Olivia, we're meeting on that today. So that's the legislative report. There's a legislative, OASD legislative committee meeting, I believe, Thursday at noon. They
Yeah.
start convening them regularly.
Yeah. that was good information, I thought.
So moving into my superintendent report, then if I can go there next. The first thing I want to call out is just the state of trying to deal with what federal mandates may have any sticking power and ones that don't. You know, we just talked about a policy AC that is influenced by a federal court case. And I think all of us are aware that since January 20th, there's been a lot of executive orders that have come out of Washington, D.C. Some of these orders may have some action and traction, and then others may not, or may not for a while. And one of the areas where we did see action, and I think our team has had some influence with the community on this, and that is in terms of immigration, noting that immigration enforcement formerly was something that was typically not take place in schools or churches, and we had an executive order that kind of opened those spaces up. And so with that, we saw there was like a connection to some action, and therefore, again, I mentioned teams we have in the county working on that, and of course our migrant ed team is working heavily on that as well. So that's something that we took notice of and were able to communicate. Some of the other orders, we don't know where they're going to fall or if they're going to fall and land. And so what I'm trying to do in response is sometimes not respond to everything that comes out, because I don't know how pertinent it is to respond when it may not be something that comes to change the way we work. And so I put out a very short notice about it, but it's not done with that notice. But I want to follow up with, and now that we have a monthly newsletter, to put something out each month that can give us a little update about what may be happening. And in that way, folks who have an interest in keeping track of it can keep track of it. One thing I will say is that all the supports that our students and staff had in play at the start of the school year, they continue to have. And OEE did a good job sending out some resources to show that. That'll be something I'll link into the next newsletter that'll come out next week. And so the idea would be that there would be a regular communication on things that somebody might be interested in looking at. And frankly, there's some people that don't want to look at it, that may not want to. But if there's something that's more immediate that comes out, it won't wait for the newsletter. It'll come out in an all-staff email and then talk about how we're going to address it. So the strategy is to try to keep from not having to respond every day to things that are coming out and feeling that it's going to have, some kind of effect that's going to change majorly what we do. That way, hopefully, we can still focus on what we do. And again, I want to point out that all the safety for students right now, the funding for students and staff is there. As that potentially changes, we would look to see where we communicate and see what action we can take. A lot of things are very complicated, and our state leaders, our state organizations are keeping a closer eye on it. National organizations keeping an eye on it. Rose was saying what AESA put out. I think Sue's and other superintendents have seen what AASA has put out. And so there's folks keeping an eye on it, and we're staying in touch with those folks keeping an eye on it, and kind of waiting to see what we might need to communicate and when. So that's the strategy. I want to make sure you guys are aware of that and trying to communicate to staff.
Just to note that the OSBA email today from February 4th, their ORAD news bulletin, the top story is about how Oregon schools are preparing for ICE. And just below that, there's a link to the frequently asked questions put out by the Oregon Department of Education. Outlines the local laws and state laws that govern schools' response, all schools' response to any immigration enforcement or other questioning. So it's good information to have and to know.
Listen.
I wanted to say the same thing as Rose first, that if you haven't had a chance to look at that report from the OSBA that came out today, it's really helpful. It's very interesting. The other thing I wanted to say is, just from my experience, the last time we had these big immigration roundups, I, for various reasons, was pretty involved in knowing what was going on there. And I think the thing that we have to be probably more worried about than them coming in and taking our students is our students come out and there's nobody to take them home.
Yeah.
That's what the schools are going, and it's not all the schools' responsibility, but that's a much bigger likely problem, I think.
Yes.
That's where the schools and churches can help. I heard that today from a minister I was sitting next to, having proxies.
And there's community work being done and communication with schools being done so that we can mitigate those situations. And learning from what has happened in prior years and building on that. Okay. Number three.
Yeah.
Yeah, Linda?
Speaking on to what, Leslie was saying is kids, to come out and they don't have parents to take them home. Oh God, I forgot what train I thought, because they used to pick them up from the jail and they worked for us.
They did.
Oh, yeah, on buses, and then they never went home, and then the families wonder, where's the parents?
Well, what happens if there's not plans made, they pop those kids into foster care.
Yeah, that's the first thing, that's the first place they go is foster care, or they try to get a hold of immediate family, but it's hard sometimes when, because kids are in shock and they won't talk. Some kids have been taught to not talk to people they don't trust. So if they're not gonna talk to you, you're not gonna know what to do, because all they're looking for is parents.
They're not there.
Or somebody that they can trust. That may look like them, they might trust, and they may not, but a lot of them can talk. You just don't talk to certain people.
We have schools and community members that are working really, been doing this for months now, and building on what they've done in prior years, making sure, knowing these things, building resources, the schools and the families, so that that's fine. guess the other thing I'd say is, where Oregon law overlaps, with the things that become federally, that's where it gets more difficult. And, education, public education is, primarily a state function. And so we look to, Oregon law and the Oregon Constitution, but federal government does come into play in terms of the money we get. So it's their title programs and other things. So there's an influence, but it doesn't always just take precedent over things that are in place in Oregon. So I also want to make sure that, yes, we're keeping track of what's happening federally, but there's some really key things right now. The Oregon legislature is for the students. We'll vote. It is CTE month, and we'll say that last month we had a few legislators and a legislative analyst of Speaker Kotek. Not Speaker Kotek, Speaker Fahey, Governor Kotek, Speaker Fahey, that it was Representative Frogla and Representative Harvard that came to the Hope Factory visit and saw the students at the Hope Factory working before. So hopefully they can take that to Salem with them and realize that regional approach can be a strong way of getting kids connected to effective education and things in the future. There was last Friday a summit at Lane Community College where we had 9 districts present out of the 16, and I think almost every department of Lane Community College. The idea come out of that summit is that we need to find ways to work better together. And the idea is we now have some options for actions, and I will be following up meeting with President Bolger and Vice President Tinkham and probably a couple of contingent superintendents here in Lane County to talk about some of those action steps so we can really have our students connected to college and keep the bridges open instead of, as we sometimes see, roadblocks that come up. Probably some action coming out of that. And then there's an OA ESD Governance Council meeting this Thursday. And as that came up, that reminded me that I think our dues are due this year. Olivia, I think you saw it, the dues for OA ESD.
LAE.
We voted no, so.
No, we didn't. That was OSBA. So I think, anyway, just a heads up, it looks like our dues will be, last year they were $40,795. This next year is $42,800. So that's about a 5% increase in the prior year. I don't know when that action is happening. But I saw the numbers today, forwarded to Olivia.
That's more
And the last thing I wanted to mention is that I mentioned this to a couple of you at the break we had between the work session now, but Erin Zacchaeus, who's been our community liaison, has officially resigned her spot. She wasn't able to make it on Tuesdays often because that interfered with the job that she taken. So she's now kind of passed it on. She says she really enjoyed her time here, but had to do something different. And so we'll be looking for a new community liaison. And then Mike is here from the middle-sized district, Crestwell. He's been here regularly. We have sent out an email, Julie forwarded an email to our small districts and to our large districts, asking for a liaison for our large districts and for our small districts. So hopefully we'll have some companionship. And that's
How about the local service plan?
good question. Local service plan. So the local service plan was passed at South Lane last night. So I think that now makes 8 districts. And Julie, I haven't given it to you yet, but Heidi Brown from Pro bought me a folder and it had a resolution in it. So it's sitting on my desk. I haven't put that up yet, so I'll get that to you. So I think about 8 districts have passed the resolution.
That's good,
Good comments about the format.
even though they missed us, I guess.
They probably. We have to find a way to do that.
Yeah.
That's my report.
Is there any questions of Tony?
So are we looking for 2 community liaisons?
We're looking for, well.
One from small and one from large?
That would be.
Yeah, so our
Another
policy.
community person.
Our policy says we get, we ask for a liaison we ask for 3 liaisons that are on school boards in foreign districts. And then we have another liaison community person. I'm probably going to seek some board input on that community person before we put something out. Because you guys ultimately will have to approve each of those spots. So I'll do a little reflection and come to you with a couple options.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, and OSBA is now working with us on a desk rewrite.
Don't you want to do the work session?
Oh, is that just that?
Yeah, that's next. 9C.
Oh, okay, I had it crossed. Okay. So at our work session, we talked about the board doing a self-evaluation. And that will happen this next month. We have, we're gonna adopt our criteria report that we're gonna do, and then we'll report back to us in March. So I do hear a motion to approve the board self-evaluation.
I move that the board, use the, form that, Rose presented to us in November with the modifications that we made in November for the board self-evaluation for people to fill it out, online during the upcoming month so that we can have the results and talk about it in March.
Second? Did a second? Yes. Okay. Any further discussion or comments? Thank you, Leslie. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. And then this next month, we also are going to do an evaluation of our superintendent. We are going to use this criteria that we've used previously. It will involve the board, our area 16 superintendents, and our management and cabinet. And that also will be reviewed in March. Do you hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay, second?
My second.
Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Now we're on to the policy rewrite.
So as you recall, we enlisted OSBA services to do a desktop rewrite for us, which means that they will give us section by section advice on policies that we may want to update, we may want to add, and we may want to delete. And the process that I suggest we follow is that I'll get these, and I have some sections already, get these sections and give them to you ahead of time so you can do some homework and review and see what they're recommending. While you're reviewing those, most of these probably will have some implication on what happens with our staff and in our operations. And so our staff will be looking at these as well in our cabinet meetings. And then prior to each board meeting, Wednesday before the board meeting, as we're planning the agenda, we've been tacking on to those a policy committee meeting. And well, we haven't been because we haven't had this rewrite. But as we have that now, I guess I'd recommend that we would extend the agenda setting meeting. So the chair and vice chair, and Rose, you've been on the committee, to have that policy committee look at the next section that's going to come up for the board meeting and go through it and figure out what they're asking us to do and decide what we will recommend to the board to take action on. That's the plan. So to practice it, I put on your table a packet, looks like this,
Yeah.
and it's got section B crossed out, so it's only section A. Now, section A is tiny, you can see how thick it is,
Right.
but not all of it is necessarily action. Some of it are administrative regulations, and some of it are policies that we're just going to keep. In the packet that you have, we see section AC, or I'm sorry, policy AC. You've already taken action on that tonight, so I'm not recommending any more action. You also have policies ACAR 1 and 2. Those are ARs, you won't take action on those. Then you get to an American Disabilities Act policy, which is policy ACA. It's a little, kind of a long ways after the ARs would say hold.
Right.
And policy ACA doesn't necessarily need any changes. However, what I wanted to show you is that policy ACA will have administrative regulations coming soon. So what our staff has now is they have copies of the administrative regulations policy ACA, and are kind of reviewing those to see how they they fit with operations that we're doing or what that we want. You won't vote on the ARs, but we'll bring them back to you as a courtesy meeting. But still no action. Halfway through section A.
I have
No
a
action.
question.
Yes.
Do we technically have to adopt the amendment to ACA, which is the footnote with the references?
It does, I don't.
I mean, that's
That's a change.
being shown as a change.
Yes, let me check, double check. It doesn't say anything in the comments. It says the ARs. Let me see if I can find it.
Well, I just wondered if that's treated as a change to the policy, because if it is, we should adopt.
And I'm not sure. And you're right. If it
What if
is,
we do it just in case?
you could re-adopt ACA, and that would be an adoption in, you would have the date of 2025. Okay,
So I'm talking about ACA.
you could read, yeah.
I move we adopt ACA as shown here, less the sentence that says, is the ESD interested in adding ARs? We're not adopting that.
So the procedure, I guess, that I would recommend is we stick to a first, so I
Okay.
should have said that, but this is kind of first
This is
reading.
first read,
So
okay.
your suggestion to take that forward as an adoption would be
Right.
something that, okay, this would be the first reading for that, and then we come back for action.
Okay.
So that's no,
Sorry.
no, I think that's important you do that. I didn't get, I see it now, it's highlighted, and I just read the highlighted part above it. So if it's had any changes, then we can have the output. Moving past to the next policy, which is policy ACB. I'm sorry, the page number is only numbered for each individual policy, so there's not a number on it. But if you flip through, you can get the policy ACB, which is every students belong or all students belong. I think we adopted this when it first came out, but we didn't do the amendment. So what you have in the recommendations in the packet are the policy ACB, that is the latest version of every student belongs. We had it all students belong, same principle, but some of the language has changed. And so one of the things I would recommend as a first reading tonight is policy ACB. And then you also see we will be updating the ACB AR to match.
So the whole, was it the legislation that we, because there was legislation, I think, no, that for the all students belong. So that was updated.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was updated. We didn't follow through the updated policies.
Okay.
What do I use? And then a couple of the next policies that you see listed are AD and ADA, educational philosophy and mission guiding values, priorities, and standards. OSBA, as they've looked at these, has
Did you skip?
recommended deletion.
Oh, those are the,
Those are the-
very listed, never mind, excuse me.
So if you look in the packet under AD, you can see that the recommendation for OSBA is to add other ways. Example, mission, vision, goals, board operating agreements, consider communicating on the website or other publications. So the recommendation is to delete educational philosophy. I do think your strategic plan probably covers that. And then same with ADA, which is mission guiding practices. The OSBA asks, is this the best place for this? It was done in 2001. Consider if the ESD website's a better way to communicate current information. We do have this.
Yeah, sure, it's media.
So we would address that next meeting.
Well, the recommendation for first read is that they be deleted, and so that would be, if the board's in agreement, that the board would take that action next meeting.
Okay.
And the last policy in your packet, the very last page, is a highly recommended policy AE. We don't have that. As staff reviewed this, our response was that we, if the board is continuing to set their strategic plan or is updating that would be sufficient. They didn't want the goals to be tied in to this policy. And it didn't seem to fit as consistently with what we saw as ESDs in our operation. Our recommendation that we didn't need that policy was recommended.
This the policy committee did even talk about these, and I just, I would elaborate a little bit on what Tony said. The thing about, deleting educational philosophy and putting it on the webpage, the idea is supposed to be to communicate better, and that's a better way of communicating by putting it on the webpage or something than burying it in policies that nobody ever looks at.
Well, it's
And-
it's not like enforceable or anything, like, you know, so.
And then the ESD goals, besides what Tony said, it seemed to be totally inconsistent for them to be recommending that we abolish educational principles and adopt goals, which is sort of the same thing. And it didn't make any sense to me. And so, I don't know.
Thank you. That would be how this would probably roll, is that the policy committee would take sort of recommendations.
Okay, we'll talk about it at the end of the month.
So this is our first read on the A's, and we're looking at AD, ADA, and AE, deleting.
Because we ask people if you have any serious questions about any of these, don't wait until the next meeting. If you can, you could get in touch with Sherry or Rose or me or Tony. Because if it would take time, it might take time to work out what you're worried about. And that way we could report it back at the meeting and be able to move forward.
So I will hand these out, well, I'm gonna hand them out now since you brought it up. So policy, here's section B coming in hard copy, guys. And as we said, when we did this desktop rewrite, there's gonna be homework. Here comes the homework. And I think as Leslie pointed out, if there are questions, feel free to ask the questions. One thing you don't want to do is deliberate about these policies online or in email. But asking a question doesn't do that. It just gives us the ability to know specifically what to look at to answer. So the policy committee can be, I think, useful in their work and be able to, focus in on some
I
specific.
thought you were still Sherry.
Oh, everybody.
No, everybody.
I mean, at this point.
Oh, I made it perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah, but all I'm saying is, everybody should know, we're not gonna talk about these next time. Next time, these are gonna be the first read.
Yes. those are-
right, yeah,
I'll get started on homework.
yeah.
So the more important thing is the A's, than the B's.
Yeah.
A's.
The A's for action, but the B's start, if you want to start, the idea was to get this to folks early enough that you wouldn't have a couple days, you'd have a couple weeks to look over it and take notes.
Because the policy book is like that, right?
It gets thicker in section C.
Oh, man.
G. And some of those we can break down, so it doesn't have to be in all of section G, it might be a third of section G.
Yes, that's what Tony
As
said.
you know, it's been a long time since we've done this, so
Yeah.
this is really needed and it's welcome, I think. And I'm so glad that staff is involved. Because it affects them.
Sure, they're very happy to involve.
Are you guys happy to know? So let's go down the line and see if we have any reports from staff. I'll start with Cynthia.
Hi,
Hi there, how are you?
I'm great, how are you?
Yeah.
Oh, fine.
Other than the monthly financial report, I just wanted to let you know that our annual financial report, our audit report is just about done, so we hope to have that available for you for the next board meeting in March. And other than that, we've just been working a lot on the development of our core and flex model estimates for next year and starting to begin the process of our budget preparation with some of our departments, and lots of collaboration and working through making sure that what we roll out to districts next month is accurate and represents our program needs. So that's what we've been doing, and we're still in the process of filling a vacant position that we've had for a couple of months, so we're hoping to make some progress on that in the next couple of weeks.
Which vacant position? I think we on the freeze.
We have two accounting specialist positions at the ESD. The one that's currently vacant handles all of our cash receipts, accounts receivable, and grant. A lot of our grant processes, our grant reporting and grant claims.
Just replacing a retired.
Okay. That is needed.
Did I hear you say that at the next meeting, we're going to have the version of the report that has been audited or is going to the auditors?
It will be the completed full annual audit report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024.
Part of the reason that I'm asking is that Vanessa and I have a vested interest in this, being as now we are the audit committee.
Oh, no.
And we never met last year because they never did get it together. Well, that's the truth. They kept telling us they were gonna get it together, they never did. And if you don't wanna have an audit committee, we're okay with that.
Sounds like it.
So isn't that one of the things we've signed on for? I don't want,
Yes,
I'm thinking more work back then.
Well, no, I mean, if she's good to just bring it to us and stuff done, then it sounds like we're.
Unless, well, I guess.
Yeah,
it's
we
a-
can
no,
reconnect. We don't have the completed report yet, and I don't have a specific date on when it's gonna be done. I just anticipate it will be soon. So once we know, we can reach out and reconnect and decide if we wanna meet.
So I know we're having problems with Elcott and South Lane on the audit people, the CPAs, getting it back.
Well,
How do we
never did
get
it
that?
last year.
I would say statewide, there's a known shortage of,
Right.
audit firms qualified to perform municipal audits.
Yeah.
We historically, there are also some statutes that prevent districts from receiving their state school fund
Right,
distributions when
yeah.
they don't. So the information that the state needed from us in order to continue receiving our payments, our auditors did,
Okay,
submit that information. So we are still
so it's
receiving,
not the full report that the state needs.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so, the report is just in the final compliance review
Mhm.
stages with the audit firm. And our audit firm that we do use is probably, the most commonly used firm in the state. And, one of their partners, about 2 months ago, has just split from that firm and is working, and building a new firm.
Oh,
And so, that may help, with some of those issues, and a lot of districts have already made the decision to change. And we have not had that request just yet.
we have Polly Rogers, do we,
Yes.
like everybody else?
Polly Rogers, not Rockland Jones.
Everybody.
No, they are very expensive. They want it every year.
Any other
$9,000.
questions? Okay, we'll move on down. Eric?
I'll go last.
Okay, Eric.
I was
go
still,
on.
still somebody's thunder.
All right, Eric. Challenge accepted. School improvement department, always so much going on, lots and lots of beautiful work. And something that I've shared in the past with y'all, or Cassie and I have shared with you, has been around the work that we're doing to document the services that we provide, so that we can increase the transparency and visibility of the work. Because we are over here telling everybody we're doing great work, right? But we want to show that to the district so that as they're looking through, they can see the impact of the work. And then they can then internalize that within their district and see how is that playing out, at the ground level for them, right? And so at the last superintendent's meeting, we were able to share these reports. Today we shared them at curriculum leaders as well. And I do want to highlight a comment from one of our rural districts from Pro, right, stating the gratitude of the school improvement department because of the amount of services we're able to provide that a district of that size would not be able to. So that was really one of the focus here, that we're working really to address the needs that our districts are sharing with us. So that's going really well. Also, Angie Elstone, who's our school safety and prevention specialist, is working to revamp the tragedy response team that it's had several iterations over the years. We're at this version of it right now, and it's work that's being done in collaboration with Willamette ESD and Lake County Public Health. And we have several folks from multiple districts being part of the advisory committee, from Junction City, Bethel, Fort Jay, Blatchley, Fern Ridge, coming together to help create a new structure of incident response, right? What happens? How do we communicate? How do we reduce that burden that we place? I think we were very helpful, that we want to be very helpful, and something happens and we show up to a building and we have to, well, what's the schedule and where do we find it, right? These are small things, but that create a big impact when folks are trying to deal with an emergency. And that's just one of the things that they're working on, but how do we, provide additional resources to districts that might not have, additional psychologists, right? Or how do we, as an ESD, come in and support by being substitutes, right? If folks need to be away from the classroom for a little bit, or administrators need to be away. So it's a very well-rounded, plan that's currently being developed, and they're fine-tuning that, so more to come on that. And the last, just to continue, again, we've shared this, but love to provide the updates, that as a school improvement team, we've really worked last year heavily on providing, equity information and training and guidance, in relation to race to all of our school improvement team. This year, we're adding and intersecting that with special education, right? So that we could learn, more, in greater detail to the folks that we serve. A lot of the data that showed of the, services that we provide to districts is in relation to teachers, right? And so how are we ensuring that we are continuing the knowledge and the skills that teachers need in order for them to continue to serve, all students? And so we've gone through special education law, the over-identification of BIPOC students in special education. And we're moving into, people first terminology and what that means and the impact that language has, on someone's identity, and recognizing that language evolves, right? And there's a lot of learning that needs to happen. And so how can we be in the forefront to ensure that we're using language that honors the individual that we're speaking about, and that also just helps us connect that to that intersection identity of students, because we're more than just one thing, right? And so how can we honor the whole being of a person? And so we're working, to increase our knowledge within them. So many great things are happening in this life.
Questions? Comments? Who's that training putting on by? So you understand the identity of everyone, accept the language of everyone, the identity of everyone? Who's putting on that training?
So we have a couple different folks, with every session, different folks have come. For this one, we have an SLP from the ESD. And it's one of our teachers who is blind and visually impaired that did this same presentation at the. Yeah.
Oh.
At the welcome back to the beginning of January, right? In January. And so that was very well received. And so I met with them last week and kind of tweaked it to make it a little bit more applicable to school improvement, because for the SPED department, it's in relation to the students, and for us, it's in relation to the adults. And so, yeah. We have.
Well, that's good to hear. That's a lot of discussion going on about that. Not in here, discussion out there in the community about our special needs kids and the teachers and the students, and the shortage of staff, and the kids running down the sidewalk to Aberson and from the classroom. And so something's gotta happen. We gotta either get some, I don't know, teaching, training, more staff. I just don't like getting text messages from grandparents talking about my child left school twice and went all the way to Aberson, my grandchild. And all the student teachers can do is follow them.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to respond. I just say, you're a parole officer. Take care of that kid. Offer him some ice cream that if you don't run every day, I give you some, take it to the Dairy Queen or something. We gotta relate to the kid. We gotta do something.
Right, it sounds like.
Right, yeah, kids love. That's scary to me, you know, that a kid can do that twice in one day from an elementary school.
And you're correct, it's about those relationships.
Yeah.
So how do we build those
We gotta
relationships
build
by
them.
being able to understand the experiences of students and interact with students in a way that is honoring who they are and elevating them. So how do we build those relationships? You're right, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, I'll just do a quick update. I'm sure you had maybe had a chance to see the staff report about where we are with staffing. I'll start with data just to recap that. We recently appointed 4 new employees this past month, and 3 resigned.
The gain of 1.
And there remain 11 openings, 6 of which are what we would call like an open pool. The open pool is always trying to, we're always looking to hire. And there's lots of opportunity in ESD here. So to that point, there are some events coming up now that we are in February moving forward, such as the U of O Educator Fair. That's happening in March, and there's also a Connected Lane County Hiring Fair coming up that we're also looking to recruit people who are interested in working for Lane ESD. So one kind of exciting thing that we happen to stumble upon is, as you know, we have different, the name of it, the different search engines, I guess we are connected with. I'm sure you heard of Indeed. Indeed being kind of a common place where you can upload your resume and search for jobs. Well, just one thing we just happen to come upon is how to recruit more people just by the change of a word. And one thing that really has built some traction is actually including the word education into some of the titles that would be already for certain types of positions. So let's say like the role of an IA or an assistant. If you also have that included for education, you end up getting more people who are looking and more actual connections. So that was a really good success just with an easy shift. And so things like that we're learning, and then also getting into the season of staffing that's coming up. And I'm going to talk about that briefly, and we have been talking about that. So maybe she did not. It's just an overstatement there, but staffing is around the corner, which impacts how we balance everything out for the new year. So looking forward to working on that. And that's what HR has been doing, and I'm going to pass it on to my teammate here. Any questions for me at the moment? Yes,
So how many retirements do we have coming up, do you know?
ooh, I do not know, but I can give you a report possibly by next time we meet. I'm not I know we can't say to somebody, hey, are you retiring? Because that could go in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
It's a 2-week notice. If you don't have a 2-week notice, it doesn't count.
But there might be a way to see if there are reports in the past. I'll actually dig into that. I remember seeing some of those things in my last district about, hey, there's some people who have been that they are looking forward to finishing their career and so forth.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When's our contract up?
Contract is 2027. So,
Oh, okay, so we're.
yeah,
okay.
but we still will be doing,
It'll be reopener.
we still will be meeting with their union partners to go over certain articles of the CBA, and that'll be starting up here shortly. So if there are things to report on that, I'll be happy to do when we get there. But yeah, that's coming. It's not a full review, I should say, but there are certain articles that we'll be addressing. Yeah. Any others for me?
I thought you had a however.
That was the.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. I'm passing it to.
That's great, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm Molly Tolet, I'm our Special Education Director, and I'm gonna read from our script because there's a lot of stuff on here and I don't wanna leave anything out. So we are really busy right now. We are working, I know Eric's done a lot of work with our local service plan and bringing that information to districts. And now we're working from the special education side to look at our cost analysis, the services that we're providing, and try and tackle some of those issues that we've talked about with staffing, with coverage in classrooms for student safety, those types of things. So Olivia touched on this a little bit. We've been really analyzing the costs that are associated with our life skills programs and beyond our life skills into our late school and our ISP program. And working with our leadership team to create an appropriate slot cost for this next school year that allows us to staff the way that we need to provide the services to keep kids safe and moving forward. And so there will be a little shift there. So we're really trying to bring the transparency forward for our superintendents and our sped directors that we serve, so that there is absolutely no question about why things cost what they cost, and here's what your student receives for this participation in our program. So with that, we are looking, this year we've had a lot of success in opening 2 classrooms that provide some more intensive services for our students who have more complex medical needs. And we are looking at expanding that to the high school next year, because currently we have some students that are in our middle school programs who are going to be transitioning up to the high school.
And we need to provide that level of care and service for those students in the classroom. So we are looking at what that would mean for us to open another high school classroom next year. We have a large influx of students that are moving into the high school programs and not a whole lot moving out. So we're seeing a big bubble of high school for next year. So working through that and just making sure, I know Superintendent Sperto talked a little bit about those low incident, high cost disabilities. That's really this population that we're talking about with the intense service need and the level of care that these students require. So a deep dive into that to make sure that we're adequately preparing and have the supports in place. Regional inclusive services. I know this is another hot button that Superintendent addressed. This last year, we've really been doing a lot of work with outreach and coordination. Dr. Galaxy oversees our regional inclusive services programs here at the ESD, and she's been working. We've held several kind of listening sessions and meetings with our superintendents and with our SPED directors to talk about the importance of reporting our eligible regional inclusive services kiddos. One of the areas, we've got some great districts that do amazing things with kids, and one of those pieces is that our students who identify under the autism spectrum sometimes don't get reported on those regional inclusive services reporting because we may not be the ones providing those services for them. So we've done a lot of work with the Oregon Department of Education, and then with our district looking at how can we provide the shalls from the contract into these districts so that they can report, and then we can work collaboratively to transition their IDA funds back. But that then funds our regional inclusive services so we can expand the programming that we provide to our students who qualify for those services. The reason I say all that is because for our last biennium, we had for all of our partner districts, 207 students reported. Because of our outreach efforts this year and the creativity that we've got going, looking at how we can build out our programs, our partner districts have reported 644 students. So this could have a major impact on an increase in funding for our ESD, but it all depends. It's all relative to what other districts are doing across the state and how many additional children they report, because it is a fixed pot of money, and then the slice just changes by how many kids get reported. But for us, that's almost triple. So it's a big increase in what we can do for our districts if everything stays status quo across the state with how many children are reported. So it's a big lift for us, and we're very excited for the potential that we could see. And we won't know until next November what that impact is, because the state's a little bit behind in their budgeting and when we find those numbers out. But Andy and I are already looking at how we can expand our services, how we can partner more closely with our partner districts, and what we can do to enhance those experiences for our students that receive regional services. Okay, so moving in, Anna talked a little bit about that professional learning opportunity that we delivered. Our leadership team took a deep look into how we provide professional learning for our staff. We realized we have a very limited amount of time with our instructional team because they are attached to districts, and so they participate with district professional learning. And we don't really get to just grab them and do ESD training that's really direct and targeted to what we do as an ESD with our students in the classrooms. So January 6th was a professional development day for all of our staff. Annie and I have worked closely together to restructure how we delivered professional learning for our teams. We heard very clearly that the one size fits all does not work for our department. We have people that are specialists across so many different types of classrooms and jobs and responsibilities. So we really wanted to differentiate that learning opportunity for our staff. Annie and our team did a great job working with our consultants and our SLPs to develop that differentiated PD. It was a great opportunity for us to pull back some of our CBA negotiated PD committee work in partnership with LCEA. LCEA actually did some of the presenting of that PD for us on the 6th, going over the CBA with all of our staff so that folks understood their rights, responsibilities, all sorts of that important information that helps us function. But the one training that did get a great deal of positivity and that we partnered then with SI was about that person first language and the shifts that we're seeing in the culture. identity first language versus person first language. And we did have one of our SLPs present, and a parent who is also a teacher. She's a parent to an autistic student and visually impaired children. She co-presented, and they shared their experience walking through life, and then societal influence on when it's person first versus when it's identity first, and how students navigate that scope throughout their development, because students do fluctuate between where they are with their own self awareness and how they identify. And so it was a really, really informative training for our staff, just to start thinking about, we're all trained and conditioned to use that person first language as we go through educational programs. But what we're seeing more with advocacy groups and communities is that the identity first language is becoming more prevalent. And as people are learning more about how their identity and their disability impacts who they are and how they see the world, they're moving more into the identity first language. And so it was a really great conversation with our teams. Our classroom teams did the training virtually, but they were all together with their classroom team, and we did a lot of discussion around some of the topics. And so the teams got to pick the sessions that they wanted to attend, and then they all worked as a collaborative team to do those trainings. And this is the first time we've really done a PD like that, where everybody got to do what they needed most for their own professional growth. And so we had some excellent feedback from that. And our team really looks forward to building off of this opportunity, to possibly adjusting some of our PD calendar days to provide more training for staff, because we heard loud and clear, this was like the first time I was able to pick things that I wanted to learn about, that I needed to grow in, and I want more of this. So it was really great opportunity for us, a good learning, a good partnership with our licensed providers who are experts in their own right and can then share their expertise with our whole department. So that was a great, big lift for us, but a really great opportunity for growth for our team. And then finally, we are moving into doing some more of kind of that auditing and looking at our process to improve outcomes for students. And one piece of that is we're really going to start doing a deep dive into the curriculum that we use across our programs and across our classrooms. We still have a lot of choice in what apps we need to meet the needs of the students that we're serving. And when we have that freedom to choose from such a wide variety of resources, it doesn't allow us to dig deep and provide professional learning around that curriculum. And so we're looking to identify and streamline our curriculum choices so that we can then provide more training on accessing that curriculum. Because when we look at, research-based best practices, a lot of those curriculums that are designed need to be taught in a sequence, need to be taught with consistency and fidelity and use the way that they were designed to be used to have the outcomes that they were designed to create. And so when we start picking and choosing what we're doing, we don't have the output that we want or the outcomes that we want for our students. So looking more critically about those instructional practices that we have in our classrooms, getting more consistent so that if I'm a student in one building, I'm receiving a very similar experience as a student in another building, so that we're creating equity across our classrooms. But that's what we've got going on right now in special education. So any questions?
I don't have no question, but you just gave a presentation.
Sorry.
And I tuned you out. Because I started focusing on professional learning for the team. And then I went to identity first language. And then this curriculum. Those look like a presentation to me, one at a time. I would love to hear more about that, because it's what's impacting our students. I mean, the professional learning for the team, the teaching, the first language, that's still something I'm learning, identity first language. And I was like, this lady telling a lot, but I don't tune out because I stuck on those three. I mean, I missed other things, but you should give us some presentations to expand on.
We've got a lot going on.
Yeah,
That's great.
especially that's.
We didn't,
that's a lot.
and we didn't have a presentation. I mean, we do have things that folks who
This is our.
Yeah.
want, and it's great to hear what the board wants on that, so we can bring some things.
Yeah.
forward. We can do that.
That was a presentation, but I mean, that was
It was
a
a great
lot. You're
presentation.
doing a lot, so.
Big part.
I didn't tune out.
I did. I started focusing on the professional learning for team, that because they're teaching our kids in the curriculum and in the whole identity first language. I know there's a lot more that goes on at those topics.
Linda, I think we have it that recorded. I think that Mary may have recorded that presentation session. I've got to double check though. But that would be something we could bring those folks in here to present to the board as well, because it was a very valuable professional learning opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, it would also be, like, because I'm such a budget nerd, to like, to kind of work us through the cost allocation and like factors that way, just because for us to better understand that, and then when we're, interacting with our colleagues, when they're like, oh, look at this bill, and we say, well, here's really what they did, we can't replicate the process, but to better understand it, I mean, in a way, in a layperson's terms would be also very interesting. So you guys think, of course, priorities, but for myself.
Rose, Olivia and I are in that drafting stage right now. It's going to go to our SPED directors next Tuesday at our Life Skills Consortium meeting, and then it's going to go to our superintendents, I believe, the next week also.
Yep.
So we can definitely circle back if
Yeah, I
that
think-
works for.
I think that's a piece I can take in terms of communicating that part of it, because, we're not hiding the fact that costs have gone up. And so our menus of services, there will be an increase for districts then. And yes, you will, if it's on the superintendent's radar and it's on the board member's radar, you'll hear. So I need to give you some information about what it's, I think that would be on.
That's fine. I mean, I certainly know we approved some contracts and things over the last few years that costs go up.
Yeah.
Among other things.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so very much.
All right, so we are running to support all of those fantastic initiatives every way that we can. One of the opportunities to do that is to get ahead of some of the need for bandwidth. We're going to take our backbone from 10 gigs to 100 gigs. That'll allow us to expand not just for the ESD, but for all 16 districts in Lane Community College. And through the development of relationships with Link Oregon, we're able to do that at very little cost to us. So that's a great benefit. A lot of our recent time has been spent very involved with the Caruth data incident. That was not our incident, however, it did deal with our data. And there's a lot of requirements around how we handle that and to make sure that we communicate that out to the public properly, all of our previous staff properly, and make sure that we're considering our environment and keeping it safe.
Any questions? Okay, we're the wipe up guy, right? What do they call it?
Cleanup.
Cleanup guy.
So, my highlight is I get to work with this great team. As you heard, that there's a lot of projects happening, and one of our agenda items for tomorrow morning at Cabinet is taking a look at what are we needing to complete by July. So everything's a priority and nothing's a priority, right? So we really want to see what operational projects that we have going on, because we have a lot of initiatives that are occurring that have interdepartmental connections. And so we want to make sure we have the right people at the table, that we're being really planful about when things are going to be due, how do we get those things completed, make sure the support's there so they are finished on time, and also that we're utilizing our time really wisely with those initiatives. And so bringing the support where the support needs to be, and trying to make sure that we're accomplishing our goals for the year's end. This year's over, we're planning for next year, right? So we have to make sure we wrap this up and are also shooting for the fall. So we are.
Questions? And you did finally get an office, right?
I did.
Sherry, there was a community information that I thought to share with relevance to this group, regarding Senator Davis.
Okay.
Just that I found out today that Marshall Peter passed away.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, so I'll just read to you a little bit about him. He was the director of, founder and former director of CADRE, which is Center for Appropriate Dispute Resolution in Education. And he was also somebody I knew was very encouraging to folks in getting involved in politics and activism. And I imagine as a professional, he was a wonderful mentor as well. So just wanted to acknowledge, he was the director of direction service and a special education teacher and just an all-around great guy. So he'll be having a celebration of life at the shed on February 24th, I believe, no, 23rd, at 3:30. So it's open to the public. If you know him and would like to celebrate his life, that'll be happening on February 23rd at 3:30.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, what's going on at Crestwell?
Well, the good news is, I was told in 2024, we had the highest graduation rate in Lane County,
Oh, my
which
God.
was really proud of. The bad news is, just before Christmas break, we had a young guy hit by a car in our parking lot at the high school. And that really shook the tree pretty hard. You can imagine everybody went through all the rules in place, make sure the teachers are there. And I'm sure there's a couple of things we didn't do right, but it's forced the school to go through all the procedures, all the people involved in it, what you do. There's going to be speed bumps put in, lots of street signs and stuff. And we're going to have a major discussion, I think, at our next meeting to make sure that everything's in place. I mean, you've got to look out for the safety of the kids, but you also have to educate those kids on what they're doing driving.
Right.
I was going over to school one time and there was a young lady parked at a stop sign that comes out on the street. She was doing her makeup, talking on the phone.
Putting the eyelashes on.
And in my work for 50 years now, I've driven a lot. I can't do two things at once, let alone three. I mean, she must have been a marvelous driver. But it's the little guys are the ones that haven't had any accidents yet, but they're the scary ones because twice I've had been driving to my house and have kids on a bike, and when they look at you, that's where they ride their bike. And I've actually pulled on the other side of the street and locked the brakes up. And one of them almost hit me, and the other kid, he was almost gonna hit me, so I honked at him, and he flipped me off. And so you've got to do everything you can as a school to look after how you're set up in the parking lot, but you've also got to educate those kids.
Yeah.
You know, you get hurt on a bike, you get a Band-Aid. You get hurt in a car, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. And if you hurt some kid seriously, it's really going to get bad. So it's a good learning education. But this spring, we're going to start building our CTE building. We're excited about that. I got a tour of all the facilities last week from our superintendent, and I cannot believe how much money he saved us on building this project. What he's done is he's hired a builder that's got all the licenses to bid on electrical, plumbing, and the whole thing. And instead of hiring a big engineering firm to do all this planning and stuff, they're doing it themselves. And we've got the bid for the football field, the softball field, and the baseball field were all the same price, and we're getting all three of them for one of those numbers.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's just amazing what those guys are doing, and it's a lot of work. They're spending a lot of time doing it. But I'm not saying the engineering firms are bad at all, but I'm just saying you can save a lot of money if you do it yourself. A lot of people just sign off on it. And you wonder why you get a bid or a bond at 10 million and the bid comes in at $9,999,000. They know what those bids are. And if you want to do the work, there's a lot of stuff you can do to help yourself. It's just amazing. And the other day I was a judge at that FBLA. Apparently we're a regional center. And that was really, really fun to work with those kids and see what they know. And I was amazed. We got to see summaries of the various subjects involved, and one of them was owner to business. And I couldn't believe the depth that they right. It's like used to be a college class to me in the old days, all the insurance and all the different things on owning a company. And, I own my own company and I haven't done half of that stuff, so.
It was a learning experience.
But it was really a good experience for me, and I'm gonna volunteer again whenever I can. It was a good deal. And that's about all.
I know when I interview senior scholarship people, kids, I'm so amazed how smart they are and how well their maturity and the planning of their life. And kids are pretty wonderful.
Oh, it was,
We're doing a good job.
at the end, they had the kids waiting to give out the awards and stuff, and there's 100 and I don't know how many kids, and they were all dressed up, very few phones, very well mannered. It was really cool. It was really nice to see all that. A lot of good kids out there. There really are.
It's always great to hear from you because you're so positive, and it's so great to hear how Crestwell's doing. Exceptional.
That's really cool.
I'm sorry.
Kid, the parking lot, how are they doing?
Oh,
mean,
I guess the best way to describe it was, he got hit hard enough, he flew through the air. I don't know how far, hit and rolled in the concrete. And, they took him to the hospital, nothing was broken. He just beat up really pretty darn good. I think he missed 4 or 5 days of school or something. He's doing fine, but it really scared everybody. But on the other hand, it kind of woke us up. Maybe that's a term I want. I think more, what I've always been amazed is the elementary school. There's always a principal out in the yard when everybody gets there. And our old principal, Ryan, he used to tell me he's out there to keep the fights from happening, from the ladies dropping off the kids. You've gotta.
The ladies are fighting, or the?
Oh, yeah, they're parking spots,
I mean, they've got.
You gotta keep
I'm not trying to be derogatory. They're trying to get the kids off so they get to school, and they've got 100 things on their mind. And, but it's, you never really hear about it, but it's really important part of what's going on. You've got to protect those kids. You just have to, and whether it's flow or the rules, or there's, hey, if you hit somebody, you're gonna lose your life. You can't drive to school for a month. There's gotta be some ramifications for what you do. But you gotta educate everybody, including the teachers, and what to look for too, because that can get really serious in a hurry.
You have much problems in your middle school?
I don't
Yeah,
think
heck of a time in our middle school.
the way they've got that set up, it should go really,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Elementary is a lot more complicated, and high schools, I didn't think it was that complicated, but it's, when you've got kids, carloads of kids talking, yelling at each other, talking about their boyfriend, talking about their girlfriend, probably nothing about school.
I wouldn't think
But,
so.
going in and, and they're just learning how to drive too. And a lot of those kids do not have driver's licenses, so they go with their buddies, and
We're not supposed to.
I'm amazed at how many kids in high school down there do not have their license. Well, mom and dad takes them everywhere, so they don't really have to. But
Well, I'm amazed when I go by a high school parking lot, how many kids have cars.
yeah, it's a big change from bicycle or walk,
Yeah,
and but you just gotta pay attention to what's
Yeah, you
going
do.
on. You
because
really
they're not gonna pay attention. Thank you so much, Mike.
Yeah.
We appreciate you. Mapleton, what's going on?
Hi, everybody. So a couple things, we're in the midst of basketball season, and I just have to start there because we are a basketball school and we're hosting regional tournaments every weekend for middle school for the next.
Beautiful, newish floors.
Yeah, and we I had a superintendent tell me the other day, oh, you got stuck with that. I said, no, my staff begged for that. And it really is, it's our culture, and parents, families, students, community service, it's packed at our school. Come out if you're in the neighborhood, stop by on a Saturday this month, and I promise that there's basketball to be had.
Good popcorn?
Say it again.
Good popcorn?
Good popcorn, chicken quesadillas,
Oh, wow.
nachos. We run a concession stand, right?
Yeah, it's a good money maker, yeah.
We are the restaurant in town,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Yeah, well, some days. So, this Thursday night is our senior night, but alongside that, we'll have our Winter Sports Affair, which is our showcase exhibition of learning for our students. And so they're busily preparing for their showcasing their work from first semester, teachers and students. So,
What day is it?
Thursday this week, from it's about 3 to 6 p.m. And if we don't check first that we don't have a snow day. This will be year 3 in a row that we have to reschedule it if there's snow on Thursday. So hopefully not. And then we're excited. Well, a couple different things that I just wanted to connect to the ESD and that report. Like, I know you guys talked about, I don't know if you showed it before, but it's kind of cool to have the Mapleton version. And through this, let's see, July through December, 422 hours of service for our district in 72 different services. And in a small district, like I call every day for something, and and not all of it gets, I mean, there's some, right, and that's not even the special education side, this is just school improvement. So it's like knowing how impactful and seeing it, I'm like, oh yeah, we did that. I'm like, what was this? And that doesn't even include the day-to-day texts and phone calls that don't always get reported. So I wanted to share that. And then Thursday next week, we'll be hosting round 2 of CTE tours. And
Pass them on.
yeah, and we're going to showcase our project-based learning. So being a small district, full career technical education programs are hard to offer with a lot of elective choice. And we have a model where students, all middle school and high school students are in gardening, culinary, business, construction, electronics, and student media, one of those 6 areas. And all of those are intended to connect student-driven projects to community improvement, school and community improvement. That includes building tiny homes in connection with American Today. Team Oregon Build, supported by the ESD, where our lower field is now like a functioning garden that's expanding. By the end of next week, we'll hire a new food systems coordinator, which is grant, will be grant funded to connect the growth in that developing farm and garden and farmers markets to our cafeteria, produce, and like that's all connected with student leadership. And we just are good adults to come alongside and continue to make those opportunities. So let's see, I said that. There in a second. We're also participating in the Center for Educational Leadership, professional learning for administrators, supported by the ESD, and we're doing that in collaboration with the superintendent and principals from Mackenzie, Crow, Blatchley, and we're talking Marcola into joining. So tell Terry he's part of it too. And it's been a really cool opportunity. We know each other and we're friends and we show up to the same meetings. This is like to work on our craft and improve our schools. And each of us, next one's at Triangle Lake. Oh, did I say Triangle Lake? They just, oh, I always told it much. Yeah. Next one will be hosted there, but we've each done a protocol at our site. So we get to be in each other's schools and experience and really talk about what's working, what's not, what we can learn from each other. And then we have a day like at the ESD together, and round 4 will be coming up. I think that round 4 is not till April, just for timing, but even today I was sitting with one of the superintendents and they're like, hey, have you done your school calendar for next year yet? No, but we should get the 4 of us together and talk through shared PD days so that we can bring our teachers into this experience too. And so that collaboration has been really, I think, important for our small schools. So
you talk to the rest of the districts about that too?
Say it again.
Can you talk to the rest of the districts about that too? I'm gonna talk to them.
The
Common
calendar.
PD days, yes, thank you.
The NPDs, yeah, and we each have a little bit different contract, but even having a couple shared opportunities and speaking for small rural schools, our teachers have always felt on an island, and this is a chance. They're always asking for connections to other people doing similar work, and we're working to build those structures in our district and across districts. So it's been pretty cool. We host a 21st century after school and Friday school program for our elementary in consortia with Crow and Sagusla and Mackenzie. And that's supported by the ESD, and it provides our elementary kiddos with after school enrichment, academic support, and social emotional connection and learning, plus meals and transportation home.
Oh, wow.
And it's been a huge support for our kiddos that don't always have things to do after school, or in Fridays in particular. And then just the last thing to share, our biggest need and what's taken the most of our energy this year, and maybe the last 3 years, we have a very, just going back to high incident, high cost disability and what do they call it, low incidence. Yeah. And the reason I struggle to say low incidence, at our pre-K through second grade, we're seeing conservatively about 40% of our students experiencing autism or high sensory processing disabilities. And some of those, right, nonverbal autism to food seeking, like you name it. And at that age group, it comes out as high behavior. And we've been working to build systems. And for us, like, when you have 7 kids in a grade level and 3 or 4, 5 are experiencing the world in that way, and they tend to set each other off, it's hard. And we can't, I think through how to say this, so hopefully it comes out right. But I think in the past, the thought has been, oh, send that kid to a program, send that kid to a classroom, a special classroom. Like, when that's 40% of your kids and you don't have very many, that's not an option, right? So for us, it's not low incidence. For us, some of those students are very high cost disability, but we're working to try to figure out how do you intervene earlier and earlier. We run our own preschool now. We're finding that even there, we needed to intervene before. So I'm excited to announce, as of this afternoon, I just hired a early childhood intervention coordinator. And the thought is first to help us build our capacity for direct services for pre-K and kinder, but to expand this program to be birth to 8 years old, wellness and success plans, and getting connected to parents and families early. And yeah, I'm excited for the person we just hired. Comes with a lot of experience and expertise and passion and vision, and I'm just gonna get out of her way. So I'm excited to see where this builds and grows, and we've got to do something. So
South Lane's been doing this for several years, so
yeah, and
get over there and talk to them.
Yeah, the family
It's very successful.
Yeah, United Way is supporting us with family resource center funding. Yeah. It's the same for, I'm not gonna speak for South Lane, but I imagine the same. We're resource deficient in right in the region. So how do we connect and help families navigate these systems for services, right? One is navigating the system, and sometimes you navigate the system to find out nobody's there to provide for you. And so how do we build that capacity at the same time? We're talking about traditional healthcare workers, and identifying people in our community who already serve that role for each other to get them that training and expertise so we can pay them for that work. Yeah. So that we build our own capacity, because waiting for licensed folks, it's not working. And then last thing, I just love to celebrate us this year, and we're still working really hard on this, but this is year 3 at Mapleton. The year before I got there, our regular attender rate, the statewide average is usually in like between 62 and 66. But our K-12 regular attender rate was 39%. That's the percentage of students who go to school 90% or more of the time, which was not acceptable. So we've put a ton of work into making Mapleton a place that students want to be, attending the student voice, improving our curriculum, and that makes it connective, and then just wraparound supports for all the things that our students experience, which is a lot. And in 1 year, we went from 59% to 39% to 57%, 18% increase. And then last year, we increased again by 18% and hit 75%, which is well above the state average. So sustaining that, it's tiring. And my staff, I just want to celebrate like Mapleton staff. And it's true in every district and small schools in particular, but I'm just gonna say Mapleton's at the top. Like, we drive kids home, we pick kids up, we help people who are getting evicted from houses go to court. We do, like, you name it, we've done that just this week. It takes a village, and our staff never, I mean, part of the reason we want to host these basketball tournaments to do that is because everybody knows when our kids are at school 18 hours a day, good things are happening. So we're excited. We love it. Come visit us anytime.
Thank you so much.
Any questions?
And thank you for staff. We had some very good reports. We learned a lot tonight, and we still appreciate you all coming. So thank you so much.
Do you still work here?
I do not still work here, but I.
We got rid of it long ago.
We don't have these anymore.
No, I don't get a paycheck from you guys, but I am still connected to all, especially, well, both sides of the house, but especially school improvement and curriculum leaders and superintendent council. I usually end up here on Tuesdays and plan my meeting days around that so that I continue to stay close to that work so that we get all these services and it makes my job a little easier.
So the last Wednesday of the month is agenda planning. If you want something on the agenda, talk to Tony, Leslie, or I. Our next meeting is going to be here in this building on March 4th. Is there anything else? Okay, go home.
You drive safe soon.